I'm going to go over how to edit a photograph when doing an indoor shoot on a backdrop. Now, in this photograph, we've obviously used natural light. However, there is a reflector in play, and also we have a smoke machine running down the bottom here. And what else? I think that's really it with the elements. What I do want to do is try and combine the smoke a bit. Okay, so once I've picked out my image, there's going to be quite a bit of work here. I don't particularly want to get rid of this ratio crop, but I will go to a 5:7, I think. Just so she's in the middle there. Okay. Now, I think I overexposed this image a little, so I'm just going to minus the exposure and also bring the temperature down a little bit. Okay. I think that helps the image a fair bit. Now I can go into my other images and press sync and see what the other ones come up like. Also these ones. And sync. Let's go into the library. Okay. So I'm still more attached maybe to that one now actually, because you can see more of this pony. So I'm going to go and have a little crop of a 5:7 here. Okay, so really that's just how I select. Now in looking at this, I feel like I'm not that fond of the blues after all, so I might actually just go down to hue saturation in blues and desaturate that, and I like that a lot better. I feel like it's a lot more subtle. Let's just have a look at the aquas. There's no aquas there. Have a look at the blues again. So I can actually change the blues to be more blue and darker, which is interesting. Might help the smoke a little. Bring that back up a touch. Okay. So I think I prefer that feel. Now, maybe not quite so much on the luminance. Skin tones. So my skin tones are very orange. So let's see what happens when I play with the skin tones. If you can bring it up a little. So I've got orange and I'm just playing a little here. I'll go into red and see about the luminance of that too. Okay. More orange. Okay, so now I might go into contrast and highlights and whites. Let's bring those blacks back a little. Alright, so let's have a look at a before and after. Now that has brought back so much of that detail that was lost there. However, I think it's just a little bit too bright. Okay, so I might also just add a very slight vignette with a midpoint and roundness that makes it a little bit more seamless. Okay, so now that blue is too blue for me, just looking at it like this, so I'm just going to desaturate that a little. Okay, there we go. And desaturate those oranges a bit too. Alright, so now I'm going to take that into Photoshop. Okay, so I've opened up the other image from this series that I've already edited, just to make a comparison. So if I flip back and forth, I actually had left the stars bluer, but the background grey. So I'm going to close this And I'm just going to go back to Lightroom and go back to the blue and bring that back again. Okay. Now it's a shame because now I have to figure out how to do it manually in Photoshop. So I think I'll work on that first. It's definitely more magenta. I'm just going to work on it here, I think. So hue saturation, and let's try the cyans first. If I can minus the cyans, that might help, but let's go to blues now. Okay. And I'm going to add magenta into the blues there. And I'll just make that an inverted mask. And let's see about painting that a bit. Okay. Oop, that's why it wasn't working. It was on black. So I'm just going to paint that through a little bit. I really think this might just be the easiest way of doing this, and also it means that I can leave some of them the blue stars blue. If I wanted to, I could also just spend a lot of time on doing this correctly, but I'll just do it rather quickly with a bigger brush. However, if I was being pedantic, I'd probably spend a lot more time on it. Okay. I might as well desaturate her dress while I'm here. Okay. Make a smaller brush. Desaturate in here. Okay. It's barely noticeable, but if I take that off and on, you can actually see it. The background is now grey and the stars are left blue. Okay. So if we flip back, it is looking a little bit more the same, except that I do still have some work to do. So I'm going to go into curves and just raise the curves on the entire image there and add a little bit of contrast in. Okay. Now that seems to make a little bit more sense to me, except now I do need to do a photo filter that has a little bit of purple in it, I believe. Make it completely purple, blue purple. Okay. That's before and after. And let's actually, if I could record two monitors, you'd see that I could drag it over to another monitor to make sure that the colors are the same. But if you're working on two files, just keep them open and make sure that you can match them. So that's all I'm doing here. Okay, now I've actually lightened the image too much, so I'm going to go back to the curves. Okay. It's better. Now, the blue stars. So the blue stars aren't the same, so what I can do now is go and make them the same. Okay. So I'm just going to the curves, upping the blues under the RGB, and then going into green and making them more green. Control I to invert. And now, again, how long is a piece of string? But I'll just do this quite quickly. I'll grab a brush and just dab on those a little to add a little bit of colour back into the blues. You could really sit here and do this all day long. Okay. Okay. Makes the world of difference, really. So I'm just zoomed out and across, and Alright, there we go. Okay, so now we've got some bluer blues. Now, the only thing is the background is very slightly too cyan still. Just slightly. So I wonder if I can raise that up a little. And there we go. Much better. Okay, so now I need to just go into her skin, into her hair here actually, and lasso her hair and add a color balance. Just adding a little bit of warmth back in there. And here, color balance. So I've lassoed it, her hair, and I'm just adding warmth in again. Okay. Really, this is a very quick edit. Color balance and a little bit of warmth. Alright. Now I'm going to pop in here to the horse and lasso on a 15 pix. This area here, this area here, and this area here. So I press shift while I lasso, and I'm going to add curves. Now the reason I'm doing this is I want the the glitter to kind of come up a little. So I'm actually adding an S curve to make it more contrasty. Now this has actually got a little bit of fringing there. So I'm going to do a hue saturation and grab out red, desaturate, and magenta and desaturate. And as you can see, that's gone now. Okay, there's the curves. As you can see, it's added in a little bit of contrast, and then I've gotten rid of the color. Okay. Alright, now skin. Control J, duplicate layer. Alright, what I'm going to do is merge all of these. Control Alt E. And Control J to duplicate that background layer, and filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to do a little Gaussian blur, and I'm also going to do a solid color, which is peachy, and I will layer new group. So I've selected both of them, group from layers, and I'm going to make that a mask, and Control I to inverse it. And all I'm going to do is pop this onto soft light and zoom in and start painting her skin. Now this is going to be too much to begin with because it's on 100%. But all I can do is paint on. So I've blurred, this is blur and soften, and just slightly lightening the skin. Okay. Now I know it looks crazy at the moment. Absolutely crazy. It's best to leave it on this strong though so that you can see what you're doing. Now if you want full skin retouching, don't forget to check out the retouch video. Okay, so now I'm going to reduce the opacity of the lightning and slightly of the blur, and then the overall here. So there's a before and after, and If you find that you want to add things in, like keep the blur, yet add in some more contrast or something like that, you could always just add it in after you've done it. Okay, so I just added some contrast back into the skin there. Alright, so this is the skin layer. Let's have a look. Okay, so now all I'd like to do is add in a little bit of an S-curve. And I'll make that a soft light just to make it even more contrasty, and Control I to inverse it. And there are areas that I'd like to add that in. The hair, for example. Keep her eyes nice and dark. Hair here. Okay. Her ear. That needs a little bit of work. It's too red. So I've lassoed it, image adjustment, hue saturation, and pick any other color but red. It should bring up red too when I click on it. And just desaturate, change the hue to yellow. Here's the before and after. Okay. Alright, so I'm fairly happy with that. And last but not least, I'm going to merge all the layers again. So I've selected the bottom layer, Control Alt E to merge, and I just need to patch out this fishing line. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect because your eye's not going to go there anyway. Okay. Control J, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay. And I'm just going to mask that off on some areas just to add a little bit of depth of field in there. So obviously on her at 100%, and the horse, her hand, and some of the stars. Not all of them, just some. Okay. Reduce the opacity of that. Okay, so that just softens the image up a bit. Alright, so I feel like we're done, except maybe a color balance. Maybe we could just do a hue saturation since I'm there. No, okay, we might do a color balance. So we'll leave that on 0. Made a mistake there, and go to color balance. I just want to add a very slight amount of warmth. Okay, so let's go all of that nonsense to, here we go, before and after. And I hope you enjoyed that video.